Alright, so this is the coding walkthrough for Prototype 0.3. Now, like every video, I'm going to go through the gameplay and what's different first, and then go through the code and how it all works together. So let's have a quick look here. So as you can see, the Hydra now has a health bar, which you can see in the top corner there, or corner, middle of the screen. And as well, we've got ranged attack. As you can see, it's depleting their health, and there's a flash of purple at the front of the player there. And if we zip around the side using the dodging mechanic, we can, oh, clicked off, we can go in for some melee hits. And bang, he's dead. So I'll just show you that again there. If we move in quickly. So I have slowed down the Hydra a little bit to allow for kind of easier, more balanced fighting. Because the problem with last time is you could zip around him, but he would just chase you. So the whole point of it this time is that he's a bit more slow moving, so you can dodge his attacks and counter attack. So the Hydra can now as well only attack you from the front. If you go around the side of him, you can't attack. This is to basically simulate the whole attacking him with your heads thing, with his heads and his claws, rather than attacking with his whole body. So you can, if you wanted to, not die. Yep. Anyway, you can, if you wanted to, zip right up to him, as we're going to do here, and attack him from the front. Or not. No, apparently you can't. That is a bug fixed Prototype 0.4. Come on. Let me demonstrate. Yeah. So you should be able to attack him from the front, although it's a bit riskier. That is definitely something we're going to put into Prototype 0.4 though. But yeah, so melee attack here does a lot more damage. You can range, finish him off there. So the whole point of that and different damage, etc., is to provide a bit of balance and also a bit of interest into the battle. By having his ranged attack doing very little damage, you're encouraging the player to risk and go in for the closer hits even though they might risk dying. So it makes for a more engaging fight. But back to the overall point, this update is the combat update, a very, very basic combat system which essentially allows the player to fight back against the Hydra. As you saw demonstrated there, what we've got is a boss battle of sorts. Just to kind of give a little feel of as to what that might look like and feel like in Star Beasts. So yeah, now that we've gone through what this update entails, I'll show you how it was coded. So what we've done, essentially, is added a similar mechanic to what we did with the Hydra, to the player, rather, to the Hydra. So, in the last update, we gave the player a health bar and gave the Hydra the ability to attack the player. This time, we've given the Hydra a health bar, given the player the ability to attack the Hydra. So, you know, essentially adding the same code to a different game object. So what we've got here, instead of the player health, it's an enemy health script. It starts off with an integer, their starting health is 100, another integer which is their current health, the health at any current time, and the slider which is the enemy health bar, which is somewhere. It's on the screen. Yeah, it's there. It's somewhere around here, I'd find it, but yeah. So yeah, so that's what the slider is there. I don't know why we've got that, don't need that. Adds a box collider as well there, which is here. Yep. So the box collider, just forgive the vertical nature of this Hydra. So the box collider here is how the player can attack the rear of it. Because what we've got on the Hydra, one of the major changes actually we've done this week, is added a sphere there and a box here. So what the sphere does is the sphere is the collider that damages the player upon contact and simulates the kind of attacking with the claws and head as part of it. And then we've got another collider here which doesn't damage the player but still detracts from the Hydra's health when the player attacks them. So essentially it allows, as I demonstrated earlier, allows the player to run around and attack him from this tail. Now for some reason, I don't know why, I'll probably fix it for 0.4, you can't, this collider does not register attacks. I'll look into that and change that up for next week. It should register attacks. Yeah, the idea behind it was that it was going to do more damage if you risked attacking him from the front. that was the idea behind that. That specific feature hasn't been coded in yet, and it'll probably be in 0.4 or later. But yeah, that needs to be damageable, and I'll fix that. So yeah, what we've got here is it calls the box collider and the animations which we're fiddling with, which aren't in the game yet, so we don't need that. So it calls the box collider, which is that one there, and it also makes the current health equal to the starting health. So the Hydra will always start at 100 health like the player does. And then what we have here is if the enemy is dead, there's no need to take damage, so just return it. It's a pretty simple line of code there. And then this bit here just reduces the current health by the amount of damage that it's taken. So if we hit the Hydra with a range attack of 5, then it would detract from 100 to 95. That's essentially what that means there. And then we take the value of the slider is the current health. So the slider starts at 100, the health bar that goes here, and will go down accordingly, essentially. And if the current health is lower than 0, then destroy the Hydra. So that's why it disappears upon contact. So we'll go into the real meat of the update here, which is the combat script. Now to achieve this, I looked into a bunch of official Unity tutorials and essentially got this kind of thing going, which is raycasts. So what this script essentially does is creates rays and fires them. This is the range combat. It fires them towards the Hydra. Even though you can't see him, I'll just open the game up here. You can't actually see the physical ray going, but you can see the triangle firing there to indicate we've shot. And it fires a ray, and upon contacting the collider there, as you can see, it detracts from its health. Yeah, there you go. Detracting massively there. So yeah, what that's doing is raycasting with the box collider on the rear of the Hydra there. So yeah, I'll just go through this. So that one here is damage per hit, which is the range one, so damage per hit there is 2. And damage per melee hit, which is his melee attack when he gets up and close and personal, is 20. So what we've also got here is a time between hits, so you can't just spam, or you can spam, but you can't really spam the attack. So it's just 0.15 seconds. It's not very long, but it just means that you can't just hold the button down and blast it. You've got to kind of put a bit of skill into it, essentially. So we've got the range of the range attack here, which is 100 distance, and then the range of the melee attack, which is 0.5 distance, meaning, as I say, you have to get up close and personal to do the more damage with the melee here. So then we identify we've got the timer there, which is the time between hits, and then we identify our rays. This is the shoot ray, which is the ranged weapon essentially, and the melee ray. Basically applying the same part of code as for the range as the melee, all we're doing is just decreasing the range. So then we look into a shootable mask, which is this one here. So that essentially means that anything on the shootable layer, which the Hydra is on, is shootable. That essentially means you can't just destroy anything. You can only kill what's on that layer. And then we're getting a line renderer going and a light as well. So what those are, as I said before, the line renderer and the light there. It's basically just to demonstrate that it is working and firing like a laser, essentially. Obviously, it probably won't be a laser in the final game. This is just to demonstrate that it works. So then in the update here, we've basically got if you right-click, I right-clicked, and if you right-click and the timer, the 0.15 seconds has passed, then you can fire the melee weapon. And here, if you left-click and the timer 0.15 has passed, then you can do your melee attacks. And that there is a little bit of code for the effects, the particle effects from the tutorial that I was following. I kept this line of code in because we may want to use it at some point, because I know particle effects are being worked on by my team at the moment, and that may well be something we want to do. So what that code essentially does is enables effects to happen, so particles and things like that. So if you shoot it, maybe blood will spurt out or something like that. It's not currently active, but yeah. So then we go into the timer here, which that resets the timer upon hitting the void hit. That's the ranged attack, and upon hitting them with the ranged attack, it resets the timer, essentially. It also enables the light when you fire, and then enables a line as well there. Essentially means you can see it when you shoot. Now the idea behind this code, and it doesn't currently work, this will probably again be something we had in 0.4, is it is supposed to, when you right click, it's supposed to actually physically fire a ray, so you could see it like a laser bolt. It doesn't currently work, because yeah, a lot of this code I got from the tutorials and it doesn't all quite fit together yet, but I'm sort of working it all out and taking bits out that I don't need and adding bits that are useful essentially. So, but yeah, I looked at that code and thought that'd be quite cool, you know, to have the actual laser bolt firing. So that's essentially something I've got to fiddle with. Yeah, so and then we've got this one here, which basically means if the ray that you fire hits something, then grab enemy health there. And then if the enemy health is null, if there's no health, oh, if it isn't null, sorry, yeah. If the enemy health does not equal 0, then use the take damage function, which is here. It essentially detracts from whatever it is that it does damage. So if it was a ranged attack, it would do 2, and the melee attack, it would do 20. Yeah. So that's essentially that there, and then that's another line of code for the actually seeing the thing. What it essentially does is teleports the ray so you can actually see it firing. Again, something we need to work on. And the melee does pretty much the same thing, resets the timer upon contact with it, and then fires rays as well, so to do the 20 damage. If it fires, yeah. If the melee ray hits the target and everything is all fine, and it hits something that's on the shootable mask, then essentially takes from the enemy health. It's pretty similar to the last one. And if enemy health is not equal to 0, then it's the take damage function. It's the same as void hit, really. So yeah, that's the long-winded explanation essentially of how that works. It's mainly just raycasts firing, and upon impacting the Hydra, taking damage off their health. And when their health hits 0, the Hydra is destroyed. So the last thing we've coded in this week is a dashing function. As you saw here, when I press F, I dash. It's a nice little dodging function that essentially allows the player, if we get up closer, to dodge, oh, not quite, well, try to dodge out of the way of the Hydra attacks. This is pretty simple code as well here. So what we've got, if I can find it, where is it? Yeah, here we go. So what it essentially does is if the player presses F and able to dash is true, then change the speed to 100 instead of 10, so essentially 10 times the speed, and start the countdown. And then what we go in here, so it starts a count increment, because the idea behind it is we don't want a player to be able to just spam dashing. So I believe it's yeah, here we go. It's a 1 second countdown between the player being able to dash and not, essentially. So yeah, like with the spamming the melee and range attacks, you can't spam the dash, you can't just fly around at that speed infinitely, essentially. That's what that means. Yeah. And what this little function does here is when you let go of the F key, or if isDash is false, then it resets the speed back to 10. So you can't infinitely dash, you can only dash for a second before it stops you. So yeah, that's pretty much all the changes to the code we've made this week. It is very buggy. It's quite a big update in terms of combat, and it introduces a lot of new bugs, which I'll try and fix in the coming weeks. Next week I'm going to be looking into movement and revamping that because it's a bit rough at the moment, and I'll go through that in the next coding walkthrough. So yeah, see you next week.